Hi guys, it's Destiny Griffin, and my final project topic is going to be about the AIDS epidemic in the U.S. So I chose this topic because obviously with COVID-19 we're living through a pandemic, and though it's different from AIDS, it's still affected so many people, and so has AIDS and HIV. It's affected so many people globally around the world, and also COVID has sparked conversations about the way that new diseases and new viruses and such should be handled and ways to prevent them and things like that. Another reason that I picked this topic is because in other classes we've talked about how AIDS have been portrayed in media, and so as you can see from the picture there, the movie from 1982, arguably talks about or depicts the social anxiety around AIDS and how it's spread and things like that. And also, Pose is another form of media. It's a FX TV series. You can find it on Netflix, and it talks about it's set in 1980 in the 1980s, and it deals with how AIDS has affected the community in Brooklyn, the transgender, and well, the LGBTQ community in Brooklyn at that time. So yeah. Okay, so the article that I chose is called Deadly AIDS Policy Failure by the Highest Levels of the U.S. Government. Personal look back 30 years later for lessons to respond better to future epidemics. And it's written by Donald P. Francis, who still is involved with researching and working with infectious diseases. And at the time of the outbreak, in the during the first reports of the outbreak in the virus, he was working with the CDC. In this article, he argues and talks about how the Reagan administration handled the virus and how their handling of the virus contributed to the widespreading of the virus of HIV and AIDS around the world, not only in America, but like I said, around the world, through their lack of funding and not understanding their role in disease prevention. So, in some of the um, excerpts of the article that I've included here, he talks about how the CDC and other members who were working with the virus and trying to get it contained and handling it in the policy making had formed a plan to give to the government that regarded how to handle the disease and how to keep it from spreading. And as he says here in the first excerpt, his plan focused, well, their plan focused initially on urban areas that had the highest rates of cases. And essentially, the government and the Reagan administration basically rejected their plan and told them that they should look pretty and do as little as they could. Um, and the reasons why this is damaging to uh, or hurting to the um, effort to help prevent and control the disease is because, as he says in the second excerpt, not only Americans but other places around the world look to the CDC for guidance on how to control new viruses and new diseases and new pandemics, as he says. But for AIDS, they couldn't give that guidance to them because they didn't have enough funding from the government and not enough government support in general. One quote that I pulled from the article was that ignoring AIDS wasn't a passive endeavor; it was an active policy of the Reagan administration. And basically, this just speaks to his point throughout the whole article that the Reagan administration knew what they were doing and not they intentionally didn't give them the CDC the funding that they needed. They didn't work to destigmatize the anxiety around AIDS and how it is contracted. And here in this table picture that I have here, it shows the mortality rates among those who are infected with the disease. And as you can see, for children and adults, the mortality rate is nearly half of those who are infected with the disease. And lastly, I'll just point out another quote, I guess, that I pulled from the article, and it comes from the White House Director of Communications at the time. His name was Patrick Buchanan, and he wrote about AIDS. Quote, "The poor homosexuals, they have declared war on nature, and now nature is exacting an awful price." Or not price, retribution. So that's all that I took from the article. As I said, it basically just speaks to the way that the White House mishandled um, the AIDS epidemic, and how they could have did more to support the CDC and those trying to tame the virus and trying to research the virus in general, because it was fairly new at the time. It came around in America. He states in the article that it came around in the early 1980s, and by 1983 there were thousands of deaths due to it. And he charges the Reagan administration with being responsible for some of those deaths. Had they helped to support the CDC, they could have prevented some of the deaths and helped destigmatize the anxiety around the virus. So this article helped or contributes to my overall final project, because it is about the AIDS epidemic, and this article talks about what helped the virus spread, or what didn't stop it from spreading, rather. And that's all that I have for you guys. Thank you.